Next on PIJN News, Dr. Chaps reports on these important issues.
The transgender agenda. President Obama is threatening school children with co-ed bathrooms. Target is facing a 1.2 million member boycott. We're going to interview Peter LaBarbera with Americans for Truth about homosexuality.
Former Navy chaplain Gordon James Klingenschmitt took a stand to defend religious freedom by daring to pray publicly in Jesus' name. Now he helps you by reporting the news, discerning the spirits, and praying the scriptures. Would you pray with us? Here's Dr. Chaps.
God bless you in Jesus' name. My name is Chaplain Gordon James Klingenschmitt, Dr. Chaps, and you're watching PIJN News. On this show, we normally like to report the news, discern the spirits, and pray the scriptures in Jesus' name. But today we have a celebrity guest interview. Live from near Chicago, Illinois is our longtime friend and returning guest to this program, Peter LaBarbera with Americans for Truth about homosexuality. Welcome, Peter, to the program.
Well, hey, chaps, and wow, I haven't been described as a celebrity in a long time. You're a much bigger celebrity than I am.
Well, I think if you Google either one of our names, it comes up with a lot of colorful imagery, especially by the homosexual left. They have panned you, and they've panned me, honestly, for nearly a decade. You and I have worked together to promote biblical truth and to redeem the culture. Describe AmericansForTruth.com.
Thanks, chaps. Americans for Truth is an organization that monitors and fights the homosexual lobby and now the transgender movement. And basically, we try to get information out that not just the media doesn't cover, chaps, but now even a lot of conservatives are becoming politically correct on the homosexual issue. And so we try to get out truth about the lifestyle, about the activism behind it, groups like the Human Rights Campaign, and we get out that information that the media is not getting to people. Our people are dying for lack of knowledge. That's the problem, and we're trying to get out that politically incorrect information that they need to evaluate this incredibly powerful movement that calls itself gay.
Well, the movement, and you and I have been fighting against that movement, but they have been successful. They have homosexualized the military by repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell. They've passed hate crimes legislation to silence some people's speech. They have homosexualized marriage through the Obergefell decision. What is the next wave? Is it ENDA or is it something beyond?
Well, it's actually beyond ENDA, and of course you've got now this whole transgender phenomenon that's being pushed very actively by the media, chaps, which we're going to talk about. But I think that the last, one of the biggest pieces of legislation they want, it's the so-called Equality Act. This would be a federal bill that would essentially add homosexualism and transsexualism to the Human Rights Act, which means that we already see these incredible lawsuits, these cases against Christians, the bakers, the photographers, who simply don't want to participate in so-called homosexual marriages. Well, if the Equality Act passes, and by the way, we're calling it the Criminalizing Christianity Act, I believe it's H.R. 3185, if this passes, it would give all that power to the federal government. It would be like Obama on steroids, because he would then have a federal law for which to go after Christian businesses and even non-Christian businesses that oppose homosexuality.
So when you were talking about the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and it already protects people from discrimination on the basis of race or gender, how is the Obama administration now interpreting the word gender as it pertains to public school children? I saw they wrote this letter to all the school boards saying they must share co-ed bathrooms because why?
Well, they've rewritten, I believe it's Title VII, isn't it, chaps? They rewrote sex discrimination, which of course always applied to what you would normally regard as sex, and they rewrote it to add in gender identity. Now, chaps, me and you have been at this for a long time. We know that the list of gender identities only continues to grow. It gets bigger and bigger. You have male, female. There's about 31, I think, that Chicago is now recognizing. You have gender queer, which means a man can say he's a woman one day and maybe the next day he's something else. You have bi-gender, you have gender fluid, you have even more ridiculous gender identities, and this would essentially create rights based on what you perceive yourself to be. The homosexual agenda was radical enough. This is even more radical. It's rewriting reality, and then it's going to create this supposed legal, agenda based around these absurd definitions. And now Obama wants to use federal funds, education funds, to force this on schools all across the nation.
Well, he has threatened, and that's the word the New York Times used, he has threatened public school districts that if they don't promote co-ed bathrooms for children in public schools and let boys shower next to girls in the girls' locker room after sporting events, then they are going to revoke and withhold their federal funding of the school districts. Doesn't he need permission from Congress to do this? Doesn't Congress have power of the purse to say how this money is spent?
Yeah, sure, of course, but Obama never really let the Constitution get in his way, as we saw with his systematic destruction of the definition of marriage, chaps. So, he's all about the homosexual agenda, and now we have actual very strong evidence that that's the number one agenda item for Barack Obama. We had former Defense Secretary Gates say that of all the things regarding the military, the ending Don't Ask, Don't Tell, like you mentioned, chaps, homosexualizing the military was the one thing that Obama really got jazzed about. He was really energized about that. So for whatever reason, Barack Obama has chosen the promotion of homosexualism and transsexualism now as one of his major achievements. It reminds me of Tony Blair in Great Britain, who had a similar view, and who also chalked it up as one of his achievements. And so this is the president that has promoted in this area the greatest moral evil by far of any president of the United States.
Now, there is a report, I think it's from the American Psychological Association, that teaching children to be transgender is actually a form of child abuse. What do you think?
Now, I think you have the group wrong. I think it's the College of Pediatricians, American College of Pediatricians. I'm not sure, chaps, but absolutely. I mean, we live in, yes, which is the conservative pediatricians group I believe you're talking about. But chaps, think about it. We live in a country now where parents are allowed to work with their children to have healthy body organs removed. These are minors, because these children, and we all know that children, how wise they are at age 16 or whatever, we're letting them destroy their own bodies legally. For example, here in Chicago, a 16-year-old girl who believed she was a boy, she thinks she wants to be a man, working with her parents and a Chicago hospital in a program run by a gay activist, had her healthy breasts surgically removed at age 16. Now, I, for one, chaps, believe that this should be illegal. At the very minimum, make the youngsters, the minors, wait till they're adults. Can you believe that we're allowing this to happen when they're still minors? And so this is a very destructive agenda, but it's just terrible to see adults, be they educators, doctors, parents, confirming these deviant gender identities in children in the name of tolerance and progress. And we're seeing it all the time now.
Well, I think you're right. Gender dysphoria is a 4-stage disease. It begins with self-doubt, which leads to self-hatred, which leads to self-mutilation, and eventually self-murder. And we see so many of these teens who are gender confused end up trying to kill themselves, and it's very tragic. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, Target, the company, the retail store, is under fire and under a big boycott.
This is PIJN News, defending your religious freedom. Dr. Chaps will be right back.
Do you care about your family? About your children? Of course you do. But you need to take action today because they're under attack. Sign a petition at prayinjesusname.org to protect traditional marriage. Here are 3 specific petitions you can sign. Number 1 is to stop ENDA. This is the so-called Employment Non-Discrimination Act, but it's actually a bathroom bill that will punish Christians. It's introduced by a homosexual congressman, Jared Polis from Colorado, and it's really just a bathroom bill in disguise. Ladies and little girls, next time you go into the ladies' room at any public restaurant, you might run into somebody who looks like this if ENDA becomes law. We need to stop this because here's the actual language of the bill. They don't want you to read this. It says dress or grooming standards must be permitted for any employer who has an employee who's undergoing or may someday undergo a gender transition after the time of employment. Well, this gives them permission to have the same dress or grooming standards to which they're transitioning. In other words, they don't even need a sex change. A man can go into a ladies' room and assault you and your little girl if ENDA becomes law. And they'll punish the Christian business owner if he doesn't allow that. Number 2 petition you can sign is to stop the Homosexual Classrooms Act. That's being introduced by Senator Al Franken of Minnesota, actually to defund your public school if you don't force the teachers to promote homosexuality to all of the children as young as kindergarten in the guise of anti-bullying lectures. You're really just recruiting your kids into the gay agenda. Petition number 3 you can sign at prayinjesusname.org is to defend traditional marriage. The 1996 Defense of Marriage Act is under fire, but it defines marriage simply between one man and one woman. Sign these petitions today. Go to prayinjesusname.org and take action.
Empowering you, the grassroots activist. Here is Dr. Chaps.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Chaps. Target, the retail store, has now faced a boycott by the American Family Association. 1.2 million Christians will not shop at Target because Target now has a corporate policy of allowing men to go into ladies' bathrooms. Yes, you heard me right. And since this boycott began 1 month ago, Target's stock, their retail shares, have dropped over 19%. Their price of their stock was at 83, now it's at 68, because this boycott is gaining traction and that is costing them in their pocketbook. Here to comment is Peter LaBarbera with AmericansForTruth.com. Peter, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Chaps.
So, what is going on, and why did the boycott begin? Take us back a couple of months. What's the history of this?
Yeah, well, first, Chaps, I'd like to give a little background on these corporations like Target that are rushing headlong to embrace the radical homosexual and now transgender agenda. Target has signed on as 100%, got 100% ranking with the Human Rights Campaign's corporate scorecard, which is called the Corporate Equality Index. Now, to give your viewers an idea of what this index is, this is a rating from 0 to 100% on how strongly a corporation supports homosexualism and transsexualism. And the way it works is the more a company does for the gay movement, the homosexual lobby, and the transgender movement, the more points it gets. But it's a very rigged system because if a corporation, for example, were to say, hey, I like Chaps' work, I'm going to give Chaps $10,000 to your organization, Chaps, they would lose points on the system. But if they decided to give that same money to a homosexual organization like Human Rights Campaign, they would get points. So this is a farcical scorecard, and yet corporations like Target are bragging that they have 100% ranking. And that tells you where Target's heart is. Target is also a sponsor of the Equality Act, which we talked about, which would add homosexuality to the Civil Rights Code and would destroy religious freedom in this country. But now comes the transgender issue, and Target decided that they would have a policy whereby they allow men into female restrooms and changing rooms in the name of transgenderism. In other words, a man says, well, I'm feeling like my gender identity is a woman. I want to be a woman. This is what I see myself as. They would allow that man to go into a female changing room at Target. And this has caused a huge backlash because even people who aren't really attuned to this agenda, Chaps, are saying, come on, we're allowing men into the safe spaces where girls and women dress and go to the bathroom? Is that really progress, Target? And so AFA launched its boycott, American Family Association, and lo and behold, Target has even after receiving I think they met with AFA, Chaps, they said, no, we're going to keep the policy. And this just shows how wedded these major corporations, which have basically been penetrated and undermined by gay activists within their corporations, how wedded they are to these radical agendas.
So Target's CEO came out last week, I think, and they said, well, we're going to try to have a single stall restroom, what they call a family restroom, in addition to the men's room and the women's room. Is that a solution, or are they still letting men go into the women's restroom?
Well, I think they are right now. I'm not sure if they're gonna end that policy, but you can see the havoc that this agenda is wreaking. I mean, what about a smaller business, creating an alternate restroom? Maybe this is going to be the only way this problem will be solved, but it's very expensive. And, it's just incredible because we're talking about, I believe, 0.3% of the population, chaps, this transgender movement. And all they're doing is imitating the tactics that propelled the so-called gay revolution. And so now you have transgender activists playing the victim, saying they can't go to the bathroom when they go to the store, etc. And you're seeing the whole American society, led by President Obama at the top, catering to this poor group of people who are gender confused. And like you, chaps, my heart goes out to these people. We don't want people to suffer. We want them to get help. But there are people like Walt Heyer who've come out of transgenderism. He's got a website called Sex Change Regret. There's all sorts of help for people to get out of these lifestyles. But if society as a whole, especially led by the government, confirms, be they men or children, in these deviant gender identities, they are hurting people because government is supposed to protect people, not confirm them in aberrant and dangerous identities.
We reported just a few days ago that there was a supermarket in Washington, D.C., Giant, had a security guard, and they had a normal bathroom policy. Men use the men's room, women use the women's room. So this transgender man who pretended to be a woman went into the female bathroom at Giant, and the security guard arrested him. Said, that's not the law yet in Washington, D.C. You have to leave. They got in a tussle, and now the security guard is being charged with assault because she tried to physically remove this man from the women's bathroom. Interestingly, the D.C. Police Department has an LGBT affairs branch. I'm wondering now if this will become the trend where every police department across America has a homosexual affairs branch where the police are armed to punish normal people and enforce the homosexual agenda with police force.
I think that's where we're headed, chaps. We already have very many of those programs all across the country. You cannot expect departments that are openly advocating for homosexuality and transgenderism to apply the law fairly. And it's not just police, chaps. What about a guy who sees a man? This is a man with a penis and fake breasts, for example, which is how a lot of transgenders are. They take hormones to grow artificial breasts. What if you're a father and you see a man like that with this deviant gender identity walking into a public restroom where your daughter is? And what if you take action to stop that man? There's a lot of situations now where you, the father, could be charged with a hate crime, or maybe not that great, but maybe you will be charged with something because you tried to protect your daughter from that invasion of privacy.
Well, I agree. We're going to take another short break. When we come back, Peter LaBarbera will talk about some of these radical conferences that are being held in gay hotels.
Giving you a megaphone in Washington, D.C. Dr. Chaps will be right back.
Do you ever pray and sometimes you feel like your prayers are hitting the ceiling and they don't get to God, or maybe you don't get the result that you hoped for? I'm Dr. Chaps, and I want to make available to you a new resource, a 4-part video Bible teaching series on how to pray effective prayers. Did you know God has given us instructions in the Bible? For example, in 1 Timothy 2, there are 4 different Greek words for 4 different kinds of prayers: supplication, petition, intercession, and thanksgiving. If you don't understand the way God teaches us to pray, then we cannot expect the result for which we hope. I'm asking you to get this important Bible video teaching series on DVD for a suggested donation of only $30. Call us right now at 866-OBEY-GOD. Again, that's 866-OBEY-GOD, or visit our website, prayinjesusname.org, and get this important video resource for your family. Call us right now.
Introducing FaxCongress.com. Do you care about politics, defending pro-life causes, traditional marriage, and religious freedom? At FaxCongress.com, you can create any petition to Congress, and we will convert your e-petition instantly to real fax paper on your congressman's desk. And the best part? It's free. Want your voice heard by multiple congressmen? At FaxCongress.com, we can blast your petition to all 535 congressmen and senators instantly. And you don't even need a fax machine. Not only do we deliver your petitions instantly, but with our dashboard feature, you can quickly recruit friends on Facebook and Twitter to co-sign your petition. Do you care about a particular cause? You can build a virtual army of supporters at FaxCongress.com. Do you lead a church, faith-based organization, or PAC? We can even help you do fundraising. It's free. Just visit FaxCongress.com and try it out. Make a difference. Sign any petition today at FaxCongress.com. FaxCongress.com.
He is the intersection of church and state. Here is Dr. Chaps.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Chaps. Peter, I remember working with you about 8 years ago when President Obama had just been elected and the LGBT activists were having inaugural celebrations in Washington, D.C. There was a hotel there, I forget the name of the chain of hotels, but they were having an orgy fest, basically, in one of their ballrooms where the LGBT movement had rented this big public ballroom where normal people eat, and they were going to have an all-night sex party. But you got involved, and I remember sending out email blasts, and we alerted people to call that hotel, and they shut it down. Do you remember that event?
Yes, I do, Chaps.
So kudos to you. You have been protecting people's right to eat in a clean hotel ballroom for many years. But now what's going on there in Chicago?
Well, Chaps, as you know, they're perversion fests is what I call them, Chaps.
Well, and we should advise, viewer discretion is advised. We're not going to get too graphic here, but if you have small children, you may want to divert their attention. Go ahead.
Yes, Chaps. As you know, really the homosexual movement, I tweeted that it's a bottomless pit of depravity because it overthrows the natural boundaries that God establishes for sex and marriage. And that's what we're seeing, Chaps. As you know, for decades now, there's been a very, very perverse, and I know we can't talk about it, but it's called the leather movement. It's sadomasochism. It's mainly homosexual men, and they have these huge celebrations. They're basically weekends of partying and orgies, and they celebrate the most heinous behaviors that mankind has ever invented. And the Bible says they invented ways of doing evil, and that's what this movement is like. Practices like fisting, which I know we can't describe, but it's just horrid. Well, anyways, in Chicago, they just had something called International Mr. Leather. Every Memorial Day, they dishonor our warriors by celebrating these sadomasochism at a thing called International Mr. Leather at a major hotel in Chicago. This year, it was the Congress Plaza Hotel. I went out with a friend, and we actually stood outside on Friday night, Chaps, and we condemned the perversion fest that is this thing called International Mr. Leather. And we had interesting discussions with people who came across the street to discuss this with us. And just a few weeks ago, there was a similar event in Cleveland, something called the Cleveland Annual Leather Weekend, or CLAW, Cleveland Leather Annual Weekend. And Chaps, they're buying hotels, they're renting them for 3-4 days. It must cost millions of dollars. And then, imagine what goes on at these hotels, Chaps, and the people who come after, are they aware that this was happening? What happens if you're a family-owned hotel and one of these organizations comes and says, hey, I want to have a leather weekend at your hotel? And you say no. Could you be sued under the non-discrimination laws? This is just one of the great excesses of this movement, but this is what happens when you normalize sexual perversion.
Well, and we've already seen people who own bed and breakfasts be sued. There's a farm in New York that won't do gay weddings, and they've been sued, and God knows what's already happened in Canada. Can you give us a legal update? What is the perspective for some of these non-discrimination lawsuits, and where do Christians have the right to say no?
Well, chaps, on the transgender thing, I think it's important to recognize that we could be in trouble because maybe some of your longtime viewers will remember the Romer decision in Colorado, chaps, which basically means that we're not totally free in this country. You are banned, or that decision basically made it illegal, or that it invalidated a statewide referendum that took action against these sexual orientation laws, because the people of Colorado recognized that these so-called gay rights laws were actually being used to discriminate against Christians and people of faith and people who have a moral concern about homosexuality. Well, that was a Supreme Court decision. I can't remember the year, chaps. I think it was 2000, 2003, or maybe earlier. And that decision basically took away the right of the people of Colorado, and hence people all across the country, to take proactive action against the gay agenda. And I've seen many people believe that on the left, saying that that same Romer decision will be used to sort of undo legislation which tries to preclude the transgender agenda. So, unless we have, this is why this election is so important, because the Supreme Court is in the balance, and the Supreme Court has been the main tool that has advanced the homosexual revolution in this country.
Well, I think you're right. We only have about 30 seconds left. I want you to give out your website and any closing comments.
Thanks, Chaps, and thanks for all you do for the cause. The website is americansfortruth.com, all written out, americansfortruth.com, and I'd encourage you to come over, sign up. There's some material in there that's very hard to follow, very hard to read, but it's the truth. And I encourage Christians to stand for the truth harder and more strongly than the gay activists stand for all their lies.
I discern upon you the Spirit of Almighty God. Peter LaBarbera, our friend, longtime friend of this program. Our website is prayinjesusname.org, or you can call our toll-free prayer line, 866-OBEY-GOD. If you want prayer, please call and donate today. God bless you in Jesus' name. We'll see you next time.
Chaplain Klingenschmitt is a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy who earned his Ph.D. in theology from Regent University. As a former Navy chaplain, by taking a public stand for freedom of speech and religious expression, and by sacrificing his own 16-year career and $1 million pension, he was vindicated by the U.S. Congress, who changed the law and restored freedom for military chaplains to pray in Jesus' name. Dr. Chaps not only defended the Constitution, but his petitions have helped change the law in 10 states, restoring freedom to pray in Jesus' name. Dr. Chaps needs your financial support to stay on the air. Would you please send your best donation today? Please visit prayinjesusname.org to donate online. Or you can mail a check to Pray in Jesus' Name Ministries, Post Office Box 77077, Colorado Springs, Colorado 80970. You can also call us toll-free right now at 866-OBEY-GOD. That's 866-OBEY-GOD. Please sign up for our free emails at prayinjesusname.org. Again, that's prayinjesusname.org.